Hi, this is Amanda. I'm having a podcast today with Ken.
Hi, I'm Ken Anderson. I'm really pleased to be on Design Chief.
Okay, I just asked you a question. For the Indian artists in India, like they want to know how to grow out of India and what possibility they have to work and how they can grow.
Yeah, let's do it. Hi, I'm Ken Anderson. I'm a producer. I work in animation, film, and television, and I'm delighted to be on your podcast today,
Thank you.
which is called Design Chief,
Right.
and it's awesome.
We will start with some questions today.
Okay.
So first question is, how do you see the Indian animation and entertainment industry evolving in the next 5 to 10 years?
So I think one of the things that's probably most exciting is that Indian animators and content creators are actually looking to do their own ideas.
Okay.
For a long time, it's been service work, providing services to other people and for their ideas. And I think increasingly, Indian companies and creators are thinking, I want to tell my stories.
Right.
I want to create my games. I want to do the work for myself. And I applaud that. And I think it's a great thing to do. I also think the technology side of things is moving so quickly. But interestingly, I think India is incredibly well placed because of its technology base. The software industry that exists here in India is fantastic and decades old. And so I think that as a foundation for anybody working in the creative industries is really outstanding. So you're very well placed to take advantage of that. And I think with the initiatives that are happening in your industry with your leadership, so the people that are the leaders in the animation sector are genuinely thinking about the entire industry throughout the whole of India. And I think that's absolutely fantastic.
So what about the young artists, like where they have to start with in this industry?
So as with any industry, you've got to try and get some experience, right?
Right.
So you want to work with good companies.
Correct.
You want to work on great projects, and really that's the driver for you often is how do you get into those places and how do you manage to get onto those jobs?
Correct. Yeah.
Right.
How do you scale up in the industry?
Yeah, and I think that's down to how hard you work, actually. So when you're at college, take the time, use the time well. Really look at and think about what you're doing. Find a place that you really enjoy working within. If it's design or if it's lighting or it's rigging or whatever the thing is that you really, really love, really go for it. Become an expert. Even if you're at college, become the best person in your university, whatever.
Right.
Then people will snap you up. And from then, you'll be on a great trajectory.
What do you suggest to those people, like the young artists, to get inspired to do something in that?
Well, I guess you've got to see something that inspires you, and it might be a person who inspires you. It might be a piece of work that you see that you want to be inspired by. But as a business leader or as a company leader, you give people opportunities.
Right.
It's up to them
Right.
to take advantage of that. It's on them to understand that they're being given that opportunity to run with it, really make the most of it. And so you can't force them
Right. You can't.
to become enthusiastic.
Yeah. That's
You
right.
can show them what's possible. You can tell them about a possible future for them if they work hard, and you can give them interesting work to do. But you've also got to say sometimes it's not interesting. Sometimes it's really boring.
Yeah.
We've all done boring things, and so I guess it's about managing their expectations as well. Of course.
What are the major gaps in the Indian animation industry compared to the global market, and how can artists bridge them?
So I think that the point about creating original content and the excitement for the next 5 or 10 years, that's probably the gap. That's looking at what's not happening so much. So you might look at a property like Chota Bheem,
Right.
and you've got a creator, Rajiv Julika, who's created something, and he's managed to take that through lots of different iterations. He's monetized it. He's been entrepreneurial. and he's built a business and made money from it.
Correct. Yeah.
Right? And I think he's one of very few people that have achieved that. And what has to happen is that there have to be more leaders, more creative leaders, and so I think that's where the courage, the knowledge, the confidence has to build in India, so that people do feel that they can start businesses, they do feel that they can come up with their own ideas, and they can find a way to make them successful.
What is the definition of unique for you?
I think you can be telling the same story but differently, right? So if I refer to my own culture, then Romeo and Juliet or Shakespeare has been retold many, many times in many, many ways.
Right.
And the approach that some people take is truly unique, right? They bring something different, they think differently about how to represent that. So whether that's your traditional stories, whether that's your your folklore, or your epic stories, coming to those with a different perspective or a different eye is really what's important, and having a different voice, as a creator.
A unique voice, or some kind of voice which is not heard from everywhere, but a character voice.
Yeah, or talking about things that nobody else has talked about before. Because I think to the point about being brave, sometimes that bravery is about tackling subject matters that nobody else has done before.
Okay.
Right? And bringing a new perspective to that, and actually saying, have you thought about this? Have you considered this area of our society, and presenting it in a different way? That might be the way you do it. Or you represent a group of people who've not been seen before.
Right.
Right? So if you come from certain parts of India, then you might say, well, I come from this community.
This region or this culture.
Look, this is me, this is who I am, this is where I'm from. And it brings something fresh and different, and the way you tell that story connects with people, because we're all human. And we all have families.
Right.
We've all got friends, and we all have the same hopes and dreams for our kids or ourselves or our parents. Those are the things that connect us all.
Correct. Yeah. So when we are actually working as a group, I think we have to listen to all of them, right? The team members. They have to understand their ideas, what kind of ideas they want to give us. I think somewhere in their brainstorming we get ideas, right? The unique ideas.
Yeah, and you'll know when you hear it. You'll literally be saying, "Oh, I've never heard that before."
Something's very different.
Yeah,
it can go viral.
Yeah, and it can be in a moment. You just go, "That's amazing. That's great. I love that." Or it needs work, and you've got something there, and you're just trying to unearth it, to try and clear away confusion around it, to reveal what is the best idea.
Right.
Sometimes it just disappears.
Opportunities for Indian artists. So, what skills should Indian artists focus on to the global competition?
Wow, that is a very big question. So, I think there are so many different roles in our sector, right? So many different roles, and I would say that they're all the same roles that are happening elsewhere. But if you want to be a writer, you're gonna have to learn how to write.
Correct.
And you're gonna have to write a lot to get better. So, are there enough writers in the sector? Probably not, because they need to be telling the stories, and they need to be finding the stories to tell. And that sort of idea of leadership within the creative industry is so important. People who lead from the front, or people who lead the teams. And so I think it's really important to think about that, because you need more leaders.
Right.
If you're going to grow this industry. So it's about people stepping up, saying, I want to do more. I want to be that person that's going to, whether it's a small team, in a 2D department or VFX department, somebody says, I'm going to do this, I'm going to take on this responsibility, and I'm going to be the best at this. And I think that sort of idea of taking responsibility and being brave is the other thing that artists should be aspiring to, always.
So you are telling me that Indian artists, like any other artist, they should have a leadership quality, wherever they're going in the world, they just have to be leadership, and they should know what they want to do. They should be very
Yeah,
passionate.
there are some fantastic Indian artists working in Hollywood.
Correct. Yeah.
And they're smart, they're capable, they understand why they're there, they understand what's at stake, and they're taking advantage of the opportunities that are being given to them. And I think, if you want to work internationally, do it. Be
Right.
brave, because you learn more somewhere else, and then you can bring it back. Or you decide you're going to stay here and you're going to do the best you can to grow the business here, and your role within that is one of trying to achieve that.
So, what are some untapped opportunities in animation, gaming, and content creation that Indian creators can explore?
To be honest, when I think about that question, I don't really know, because if it's untapped, then and why it would be Indian. So I'm just trying to think. It's probably one I can't really answer, that one,
Okay.
because there are so many opportunities in the world. If Indians are going for those, I think again, coming back to the point I was making before, it's like there are opportunities out there if Indian creators identify them, right? It's about understanding where those gaps are. I can't tell them. What I can say is, using AI, using new technology, you've got to be able to integrate that into your work.
Right.
You've got to integrate that into your thinking. And if you stay stuck in the past and don't think about the future and the importance of integration of technology into your workflow, into your life, then you'll be left behind.
Okay.
Because, if you can imagine, when I started the industry, we were shooting film. We were literally using a rostrum camera. We put our acetate cell underneath. We'd go click. We'd take the cell off. We'd put the next one in, right?
Okay.
And then along came computers, and you could suddenly scan your drawings and color them in online.
I think that's a traditional animation, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
But that was literally the tradition of painting cells that went from being an acetate cell to which you had to photocopy the drawing, then color with paint, draw the outline, everything. That all went.
I think one person does the outline part and one person does the coloring part.
Yeah.
Right? And one person does the animation thing. Okay, what motion has to go.
Yeah. Somebody does cleanup, somebody does rough drawings. There was a whole
Was
process.
that like a paper by paper? They were painting and then we should take a click of
paper
photo.
first,
Okay.
and that would be the animation team doing the paper. And so they got cleaned up drawings.
Okay.
Then they'd hand the drawings to the photocopier, who would photocopy the drawings onto acetate cell. They would then give it to the paint trace team. They would trace the lines. They would paint the drawings. Then they would go onto the camera, and they'd be shot under the rostrum camera with the backgrounds placed underneath.
Okay.
Right? So it was an incredibly laborious, slow, boring process. Boring if you're a producer, because you're waiting for the film to be developed.
Okay.
And then the guys in the development company said, "Oh, there's a problem. There's a hair in the gate." So all that time, all that work's gone, and you have to reshoot the whole thing again.
So again, you continue the process, is it? Again, you have to draw. Again, use animation.
Yeah. Oh, you don't have to do the drawing because you've already got what's made. But you have to shoot it again. But technology has just made it possible for one person to do everything.
So if I ask you how much time it was taking you to just create 10 seconds of animation in that time?
I can't remember now, but it would be maybe I'm just trying to think. Yeah, a week, maybe 2 weeks if you're including the coloring and the painting and the tracing and all that stuff.
And compared to those time and now, what's the difference?
Somebody can do it all in a week themselves, or less. Depends on how fast they are. Depends on how complicated it is.
Right.
But so the point I'm making, I guess, is technology is changing so fast and so much that you need to embrace it and help to increase productivity in the workflows. You need to understand how it really is going to help you, how it will help your production, and it's not the solution to all of your problems, but it's a solution to many of them
Right.
if
Correct.
you know how to use it. And that's what I would say is, you know, embrace technology, don't reject it, don't fear it, use it to your benefit.
I think in our industry we have to be updated on our technologies, right? Like what's new in the industry, what's helping, what kind of software is helping to our work,
Yeah.
and that is very important.
Yeah, and I think, the fear that people have of AI taking their jobs, inevitably, yes, some jobs will be redundant, right? Some jobs will be, less relevant, but there will be other jobs, or there will be other opportunities that will come as a result of the technology that nobody understands at the moment. So we just have to keep thinking and keep moving forward and not looking backwards.
How do you update yourself in the technology?
I guess I just have to read things. I have to listen to other people who are experts talking at events. So things, like the graphics event here, fantastic platform for people to engage with experts, to hear about the latest technologies, sometimes to see the latest technologies being demonstrated in the expo. And those are the things I would encourage people to go discover and sit down and talk to people who are demonstrating the technology and ask them questions. They're there to answer the questions, so take the opportunity. So, and there are many of these events throughout India, throughout the year. And if they're not near you, you're going to probably have to travel, or you go online and you download all the videos that they've recorded.
Right. Okay.
Right? So I think you can inform yourself if you're interested and motivated, and there's a lot of information out there in the world.
Funding and production challenges. Now, the first question is, what are the key challenges in securing funding and distribution for independent animation projects?
Okay, so there are two things there. One is funding to make whatever you're trying to do, and then there's distribution.
Distribution, okay.
Right? So I'd say that funding kind of starts at the development phase, and so that tends to be the initial idea that you have, and most times that's going to be nobody's going to give you money to come up with an idea.
Correct. Yeah.
Right? So you've got to think about it. You've got to, as a creative person, you've got to do a lot of work yourself to try and shape that idea and make it into something that you can then pitch to someone else. And that someone else is either going to take on your idea within their company, or they're going to say, I really like that idea. And if there's funding available to you to do development, then that's where you'd be pitching for. Once you've secured development funding and you've done the development successfully, then you're going to go to a broadcaster, or you're going to go to a funding agency, or to look for partners who are going to support you to make what you want.
Okay.
Right? And so it's quite complicated, the whole process. It depends on which part of the industry you're in, how you get financed, whether it's private investment, whether it's government funding, whether it's corporate investment, which comes from a company that wants to support your IP and support you. You could be working within an organization and they say, you're really talented, we're going to help you to develop your idea. And then there's questions of ownership, of who owns the IP. So that's very complicated again. So generally speaking, employees, if they come up with an idea in their work time, that idea belongs to their company.
Correct. Okay.
So on the distribution side, it depends on the type of content that's being produced. So video games obviously have a very particular way of, they have a distribution network, which is either online or physical, and many different ways of getting that. Film is potentially through theaters. You want to be seeing a movie in the cinema. And then after that, it's, VOD, OTT, broadcasters, and different types of, you could be watching on your phone, of course, but, and then television is very similar. You go through a distribution company. Film, you go through a distribution and sales company, and that distribution process happens at markets, or it can happen online where you're accessing information about a film. You can view it online as a buyer, and then you acquire those rights. So that's how those kind of structures work, and the money flows through the distributors and sales agents. Eventually, it comes to the producer, and that's then goes to the investors to recoup their money.
Okay.
Right?
I think it's a very lengthy process, right?
It is a lengthy process.
So you have to be sure that the idea works.
Yeah,
Everything is depend on the idea actually, right?
Of course, yeah, and the market, and is your idea good enough to get through that process, go into the market, and actually start to make money and pass it back down to the investors and pass it back down to the producer and the creator, so that they have something at the end of it.
How can Indian studio or artists pitch their ideas effectively to international studios or streaming platforms?
Generally speaking, Indian artists would go through Indian studios or Indian producers, and then those studios and producers would go to markets around the world and present their ideas, pitch their ideas. If it was an individual artist, it's expensive. It's expensive to travel. It's expensive to go to another country. Their cost of living is very high.
Correct.
So it's a real investment of your time and your money. So generally speaking, I think local artists tend to try and pitch into local producers, local networks. So you could be trying to pitch your idea to, ETV here in India, in Hyderabad, right? You could be going to one of the other platforms for the studios here to see if they'll pick up your idea and help you to fund it. You wouldn't have to sell it yourself to the rest of the world unless you've raised money for your own company to then become a studio that then produces content and sells it.
Right. Okay.
So if you're entrepreneurial and you have great ideas and you've got a great team and you can raise money, then you could potentially be selling directly to the international market.
And when I say about streaming platforms, it can be Netflix or it can be Hotstar, any platform. So how to approach them? I think Netflix has some standards, right? Like some standards, some kind of animation or VFX, it has to be.
Yeah, it's going to depend on the audience that you're making the content for, and there are standards around that. So you would not put anything that's violent, that's for a preschool show. You would not use drugs in any children's programs.
Right.
There are just certain things you wouldn't represent in the content because they're not appropriate for the people that you're trying to sell to. And so you've got to, think carefully about the buyers and the audience. And so you can sell to the streamers as long as you can find a way to get to them. And that's often through events like this, where you can get this sort of business one-to-one matchmaking, as we've done here for the last few days. And, creators, companies can go through the boot counts. They can go on this journey, which is designed for them, on this pathway, to get them to the place where they sit down with somebody like me, or they sit down with somebody like a broadcaster, and they have a conversation with them, and they're able to present their ideas. And if their ideas are good, and they capture the imagination and interest of the buyer, then they'll progress.
Okay.
So look for those pathways. Look for those ways to come through as a creator, content creator, to eventually get to the place where you want to be. Which is why events like Graphics are so important. Because that provides you with a pathway to reach people with your ideas.
Okay. So in Graphics, we can actually pitch our ideas to the people.
I've just spent 2 days listening to 25 people, companies, individuals, presenting their ideas, their projects. So
So did you find anything interesting here in Graphics? Any of the ideas was pitched? So are you looking forward to work with them?
Well, it's going to be a case like everything of trying to see, is it really, really a good idea?
Something unique or which is not seen everywhere.
Yeah, and then also, to get to know those people well, much better, because if you're going to go into business with people, you've really got to learn who they are. And even when you're in business, you can sometimes discover that people are not as nice as you thought they were.
Ethical, non-ethical, all these things you have to see.
Yeah, but that's just life, right?
Right, right.
So, but you try and do your best to understand who you're dealing with and
Hmm.
their ability to take the journey with you.
Mhm.
Because as a partner, you're there. It's like a marriage.
Correct.
So, I'm still working with people and connected to people who I started working with 25 years ago.
Mhm.
So, it can be, or more.
Mhm.
So it can be a long, long journey that you're on with these people.
Creative process and industry insights. So this will be on storytelling and IP development.
Okay.
First question is, how do you approach storytelling and world building in animation?
So storytelling will really depend on your audience,
Mhm.
right? So if you're talking to a preschooler, you present and you communicate with them in one way. This older audience, you approach it in a different way.
Mhm.
And if you're taking it through teenagers and adults, then again, it changes. And the world building and the characters, again, you've got to try and work out if they work for your. So you've got to work out if they work for the audience, if they work for the material, and if they're delivering the message that you want in the script. And then the visual side of things is again finding the appropriate look for your production. And so it's quite difficult to answer,
Okay.
but generally speaking, find good writers,
Hmm.
find good designers, and approach that with care and consideration for your audience. Think about them, and that's really where you should be thinking most is this going to work for my audience?
So I want to understand about the audience. What would you prefer? Kids. What is more trending? Is it kids stories, grandmother stories for the kids, or rhymes, or something like Spider-Man and Batman? Or there's a lot of difference in all the stories, right? So which things we have to start? Like example, if I'm looking for only for money, I want to earn only money, but I have creativity. The only thing is which part I should go with. Is it something I get fast more money in the rhymes, or kids things, or I should go to some Marvel or those kind of storytelling? What would you suggest?
So I think that trends are difficult to, first of all, difficult to attach yourself to in time for it to not have gone out of trend.
Mm-hmm.
But equally, trying to do things that are against the way that people are is a challenge.
Mm-hmm.
So I think you've got to just believe in the ideas that you have, right? If you're passionate about the idea and you really believe that it's important and the audience is going to love what you're going to do eventually, then um, the most successful properties are the ones that nobody ever thought they would make. Right? Oh, they'll never make another such and such, and then somebody makes one.
Right.
I mean, I can remember with Peppa Pig, people saying, "Oh, it'll never work because it's a pig,"
Correct. Yeah. Okay.
and then we went, "Oh yeah, you're probably right," and then it became a huge success. So
Maybe it's because the simple character. It was very adaptive, right? It was very
yeah,
interesting.
it was just made by really, really good filmmakers who understood what kids love and what appeals to us as people. So it appeals across the board in terms of it appeals to parents because they see themselves in the families. Yeah, it's very
Family
authentic.
oriented animations, I think.
Yeah, those work. Bluey is kind of Peppa Pig, in Australia. And the team that worked on Bluey were working on Peppa Pig. So they kind of understood the DNA of that idea and they executed it brilliantly. And the audiences love it. So, I think you've just got to do what you think's right and think about your audience and bring your talent to that.
Okay. What makes a successful animated IP, intellectual property, and how can Indian creators build globally recognized IPs?
Okay. So I guess what makes a successful IP is one that connects with the audience and that then you're able to monetize, right? So it's great having an IP that everybody loves, and if the audience love it, then hopefully you're able to keep making more of it. But what really makes you successful is if you can have licensing and merchandising and video games and books and theme parks, so that you're actually able to increase the revenue streams across multiple lines and products, and then it travels overseas. It works somewhere else in the world, not just in your market. But if you're in a market like India, it's a massive market, right?
Right.
So you could be hugely successful here. We'll never have to go anywhere else. But if you're thinking about a global market and trying to reach that, then I think you've just got to think about what is something that people identify with all over the world, and that, generally speaking, will be the same feelings and emotions everybody has everywhere else. The kind of, if you can come up with characters who connect to them, who express the feelings that other people have in other countries.
Right.
It might be a theme that everybody understands. I know that lots of people think, oh, let's make a football show because everybody plays football. But actually, the reason that something like the Bluey works is because everybody's in a family of some sort.
Right.
It might be a single parent family, or it might be, a family that's
A joint
got
family.
loads of kids, no kids. There's all sorts of different types of families, and everybody understands that.
Correct.
So
I think recently one movie came, right, of Spider-Man. So I think they made a lot of characters from each and every country or each and every state. There were a lot of different characters and
yeah, the multiverse.
multiverse,
Yeah.
Spider-Man multiverse and Deadpool. I think that's actually focusing on the audience, what kind of audience is looking for, and they're just creating their own characters with the same genre.
I mean, you could say, look at the success of anime, right?
Right.
A very, very distinct, unique cultural product.
Right. It has a different style also.
Very different style,
Yeah.
and it's very much Japan.
Yeah.
That's where it comes from. To say that you make anime is, if you're not in Japan, then you're not making anime. If
Right.
you're making cartoon that looks like anime,
It has to be anime. Otherwise
well,
they don't accept
anime is
it.
Japan, as far as I'm concerned, and frankly, as far as the Japanese are concerned, they make anime, and we make something else.
Right.
Right?
We have
make
very
something-
different styles. We have very different
Well,
things.
even if we copy them,
Right.
we're
I don't
still
think
copying
we
anime.
can't. Yeah.
right?
Right.
So, but that's a good example of a culture that's just produced so much content that eventually bits and pieces of that go elsewhere in the world, and people become more acquainted with it. They become familiar with it, and they become fans of it. And so, if somebody can produce that content, and it will follow the path that other pieces of content followed. And the question is, can India do that? Can
Right.
India create its own content that will have a tradition and enough volume to actually start to move across borders and travel across the world and connect with people? And I believe it can.
What are some emerging technologies like AI, VR, or AR that will shape the future of animation and media production?
Well, without doubt, AI. And I think that VR and AR and all those kind of things, it will depend. Are they going to be the definitive technology of the future? Well, probably not, because everybody's looking to do something else, and they're always evolving and changing those things. So I think they are tools that we have right now. They're useful. So, for example, in pre-visualization, people are using AR and VR. And so, I think that kind of stuff is it's just current at the moment, and who knows what the next iteration, what the next version will be that changes things and moves things forward. Like I said before, I think embrace technology, don't reject it, unless you've got a really good reason for rejecting it.
What about the AI? I think AI has been developing day by day. It's not like week by week. It's like every day something new is coming in AI.
Sure.
Like creating the voice, doing some kind of animation or rigging or rendering, anything. Each and everything we have AI. So what do you think about that?
I think it's very exciting. I think it's inevitable that we're faced with having to deal with AI. However you think about that, I think there are concerns about people's imagery being used without their permission, and I think we're in a kind of very volatile period of trying to understand the relationship that a creator's work has to the rest of the world, and the technology sort of how that relates to it. So um, there are those people who have a view that anything anybody creates is just for everyone.
Right.
But why should that be the case? That's probably somebody who doesn't create anything that says that. And to respect the work of individuals and whether they're writers or artists is what one should be doing. Because talent is so rare
Right.
that to sort of treat it as a not having any value is just disingenuous. Really, it's not the reality that we live in. Because if everybody could write like Shakespeare, they would, but they can't. So that's the truth.
Right.
And there are poets here in India, amazing people who you respect over hundreds and hundreds of years because nobody else has managed to be as good as that individual.
Right.
And so, yeah, I think we have to protect them. The
I
really
think the original talent should be protected.
Yes, technology is great, but don't let it abuse and spoil what happens in our humanity, that
Right.
maintains our humanity.
So collaboration and breaking into the global market. First question is, how can Indian artists and studios collaborate with international companies like yours?
Okay, so it's a good question. And I think that's again about finding ways to connect through events. So if you've made a film, go to film festivals if you can, try and get out in the world to meet people, or go to events like this and meet people like me. So you've got. I know that people come up to me and say hello and introduce themselves, and I will say to them, connect with me on LinkedIn,
Right.
because I've met them, and people will approach me on LinkedIn, and I'll just say, no, I don't know you, but if you've met me and I've said to you, please connect with LinkedIn, then I'll do that. Now, that might not result in me having a conversation with them, but what it might do is connect them to the rest of the world through my contacts, and they might start to see things that are happening. But far more importantly, come to events like Epics, right? Come and meet people like me, talk to them, listen to them talking on stage, because they will tell you things that you've not heard before, and then go out to the world to international trade events, markets, festivals, and meet people. And that's how you build your relationships, that's how you'll build your knowledge and experience.
What are the international studios looking for when hiring a collaboration with Indian talent?
So I'd say if you're thinking about services being provided by an Indian studio, then obviously they look at the quality of the work that's been produced before. They're looking for your ability to communicate well with them, to be very straightforward and very open about everything you're doing. So there's a lot of transparency. I think that's the key thing here is transparency is the trust building process that you go through. There's definitely a question around pricing, and how much the services cost. But actually, if you're hitting the quality of work, that's more important to them. Because what's the point of going somewhere, paying less money, but not getting what you need in terms of the quality?
Right.
So I think it's being able to demonstrate your ability to hit the quality marks, consistency, reliability, and then price. Because I think, as I said, it's more important to studios that are acquiring your services that you can actually do what you say you can do, and the price is a benefit to them.
Right. Actually, in India, I have noticed this thing. Few of my clients as we're into multimedia. So whenever they want any kind of 2D animation or 3D animation, we give some range of budget. Like this is the budget we can do. But every time, clients are always here to negotiate. I'm looking for something in this range.
Yeah.
So, but I need a good quality or hi-fi quality, like a Disney quality.
Yeah, well, they're not going to get that.
But yeah, that's not going to get. So, how do you deal with that kind of situation?
So, I think that people who are experienced on the buy side, who are acquiring services, they're very straightforward to deal with. They know the price of things, and they know. For example, if you were to give them a crazy low price, they would not want to take you on because they think you're not real. You don't know what you're talking about. Your pricing is way off, and you're trying to. Either the quality is going to suffer because you don't have enough money to pay your staff, and your staff are going to, or you're not going to have enough staff to do the job properly, right?
Right.
So I wouldn't worry about those people that know the industry well. It's more the people that don't,
Right.
who are maybe coming into it from somewhere else, and they're trying to do something with animation or using animation for their products or their website or something like that, and they don't know how much anything costs. So then I guess it's the job of the studio and the producer or the salesperson, whoever's involved, to explain to them, actually, there's a reason it costs this much money, and if you don't want to pay as much money, then the quality does go down, or you lose. You've got to consider the script again, especially when you're doing commercials, right?
Yeah.
So you've got 17 characters in the shot.
Correct.
Are they all important?
Not really.
Exactly. So then you say you need 4, right?
Yeah.
And then that makes it cheaper.
Correct. I think those others will be a filler, so we can negotiate in that character.
There you go.
Yeah. But sometimes, in market, it's a very big market here. And a lot of people are ready to work in that budget, negotiation budget, what clients want. And there's no promises about the quality, but the things get done. But then, client at the end of the day, they'll just suffer with the quality.
Yes.
They're not happy with the quality.
Yeah, and it doesn't help the sector, because if clients that have money come into the sector and are disappointed with the end product, then they might not come back again.
Right.
They might choose to do something completely different instead and spend their money in a different way. But if they have a really good experience, then maybe they start coming back more and more and more, and investing through their work into our sector, right? And that's what we have to try and understand. This is not about one-off transactions. This is about building relationships.
It's for long-term.
Long-term clients and trust. Building that trust. Yeah.
So, what's the biggest lesson you have learned from building multiple companies in your industry, the entertainment industry?
So, I think probably the lesson that I keep on learning is that you just have to keep on going.
Okay.
It doesn't matter what happens. There will be people that let you down. There will be people who take advantage of you. There will be times when you fail and you let other people down. Now, that might not be intentional, it's just circumstantial, but you're learning as you go along. And I guess it's always a process of learning, for me anyway, and I hope everyone else, and to try and improve every time on what you did before. So try not to make the same mistakes, but sometimes you can't help yourself, it happens. And try and be good to people, I think. I think just be fair, be decent to people. I would always say that. That's who I am.
Okay. So what inspired you building up multiple companies?
I think really it was an understanding that sometimes businesses have a life span, and sometimes you have to actually change and stop doing something because it's not working anymore, or the market has changed, and you have to adjust. So in your own business, you probably see this, right? You pursue one line of business development, and you think, that's not working. I have to do something else, because I'm just not making enough money from that. Or you're looking at it thinking, this has probably got not 2 more years left, and then it's dead. Because all this other new stuff is coming in, and I need to be ready to be able to jump onto that once the time is right. And so, why do you make a podcast?
Because it's trending and people like to listen to podcasts.
There you go.
Yeah.
And what does it give you? It gives you profile. It gives you opportunity to network. It gives you a chance to understand the world better in which you're operating in, right?
Right.
So I think that, that inquisitiveness, that desire to understand your business, that comes into what you're doing if you're a business person and you're looking at opportunities. So I know that there are certain trends, for me anyway, that I feel is the future, and I need to be thinking about that, and I need to be moving into that space. Or I feel that the industry needs people like me to do something. Maybe the industry doesn't know it needs it, but people like me feel that we have to do something about it. So, for example, coming here, helping at GAFIX is actually something I feel is like a duty, because it's not just about me and it's not just about India, it's actually about our community. So there are benefits that will flow back to Scotland, where I come from. There will be opportunities that will be provided to people in India and in Scotland through my participation. So that's why I come.
Okay, very interesting. Okay, if you could give one piece of advice to a young artist creator, what it would be?
I think keep learning. Keep learning. Stay interested and excited about what you're doing, and that will allow you to get up every morning and sit down at your desk and keep working because you really enjoy what you do. And by having an open and inquisitive mind, then you actually discover really exciting things, or exciting opportunities will come your way because you're actually actively engaging into that space, and you're asking the right questions, you're talking to the right people, you're placing yourself into that space.
This is right, like, okay, that's my passion, so I'm doing it, and it interests me, it motivates me to do it every day.
Yeah, absolutely. So I think that would be the advice is, follow your passion, stay engaged, stay interested and alive in that space, and look for your path. Look for where you need to go, and follow it.
Okay. Sometimes artists do burn out, right? Like it's about creativity. You don't find creativity every time. Every day you don't find. It's like sometimes very low time. And what do you think? What was your experience when you were going through the low time and you didn't have any kind of creativity, but you have to do something?
Yeah, I mean, I think it is difficult at times in your life, and I don't just mean about creativity. There are challenges that come along all the time in your personal life and in your business life, and it definitely impacts on how you engage with the world and how you think about things, and yeah, it can be hard to try and re-engage yourself with what you want to do, your passions. But I think it's that thing of being nice to yourself, giving yourself a little bit of a time off, or
taking a break.
Have a break. Have a break. It's that idea that you need to be good to yourself first before you can be good to other people. You need to have the balance and the kind of sense of well-being in yourself, and then you can help others. And so I think, there's definitely something about that, being good to yourself and allowing yourself to sort of rebalance and then get back into that space where you are most creative and most productive. For some people, it might be the stress and anxiety.
They push themselves a lot, actually.
Pushes them into places that they need to be, but it might not be sustainable.
They question themselves why I'm doing it, where I'm going.
Yeah. It's hard sometimes to pull yourself up again, having been knocked down.
Because field like us is something we have to be very patient. In animation, rigging, anything. Creativity is something we have to be very patient. A lot of brainstorming. It's like again and again we have to hustle.
Yeah. Okay.
Now this is a rapid fire. Okay.
Sure, I'll do my best.
Okay. So, favorite animation projects you have worked on?
I think 64 Zoo Lane because it was my first major series that I did. I worked on a show called FC Coco,
Okay.
and I loved working on that because it had such a really great energy to it, and it was like not very much money, but I managed to get some great people working on it. And one of them was a guy called Bob Godfrey, who is a legend in the UK animation industry, and that relationship with him was one I really treasured and enjoyed. And more recently, I think, yeah, so working with Liz Pichon and my colleagues in TG Entertainment, who are fantastic people, and I love working with them. And I love the brand. I love the Tom Gates property, and yeah, it's fun to be involved in something that's a success. So, and I'm excited about the future for that, especially now that we've tied up with Green Gold.
Right.
So that's exciting. It means that hopefully I'll be able to come back to India again and support that and encourage the success of Tom Gates in India.
Second question is most underrated animated series or movies?
Gosh, there are a lot.
Okay.
I
Tell
think
me any top five of yours.
no. So I would always be looking for things that are not necessarily in the mainstream, or if they're in the mainstream, but I feel that maybe they're not being recognized enough. So there's a film that's currently, I think it's Oscar nominated. It was, it's had lots of nominations but hasn't won, and that's called Memoir of a Snail, and it's a brilliant film. It's really well written.
Is it 2D or 3D animation?
3D stop frame,
Okay.
and it's all handcrafted
Clay animation? Is
beautifully. Well, you need to go and check it out. It's amazing.
Okay.
And the filmmaker Adam Elliott, that he won an Oscar for a short film that he produced, and he's just done a great job. He's done an amazing job, and yeah, he's from Australia, and yeah, there's something really special about it for me anyway, and yeah, and it's a time when there's a couple of 2 or 3 really interesting films around. Flow is another one. If you've not seen Flow, you should watch that too. I think that Aardman have produced an amazing stop motion film, the Wallace and Gromit movie. That's back to some sort of peak for me in terms of what they're doing right now, because they've kind of gone back to a hero combination and a villain who everybody loves, and they've done that justice. They've done a really great job, and so yeah, those 3 I think are the ones that are current that you could go and see. But you might want to check out lots of stuff from the past, short films in particular that you've.
Which one was your favorite, like till now?
Phew, my favorite short film?
Yeah.
Blimey. Nothing I can immediately sum up, but I'd say maybe the first one that we produced in Red Kite, which is a company that I have, in 1998, and that's called Beelines. Beelines, yeah. And it was the first film that we produced in our studio. My co-founder, Rachel Davin-Baker, was the director. It was her first film after leaving college. It was beautifully handcrafted. It was shot on acetate, handcrafted. Yeah, that was a really special.
You're more into handcrafted animations, right?
Yeah, I really like I like craft in our world, But having said that, there are amazing 3D animations, and but there's something about that sort of it's almost like the artistic auteur creator, that sort of unique perspective that I love. It's not necessarily as commercial, but yeah. So when you can get that highly original voice, and then it turns into something that's really unique, Wes Anderson does some brilliant films. The team that he works with are amazing. So Fantastic Mr. Fox. I don't know if you've ever seen that one.
A dream project you would love to create but haven't yet.
That's like what? Dream project that I can't think that I've ever. So, do you mean a project I'd love to make?
Yeah, I mean, are you planning for something upcoming projects which you want to do it but still didn't started to create it?
Yeah, so I've got some feature projects I'm working on that I would love to see happen. One of them is a Welsh language book by a wonderful writer called Carol Lewis, and she's based in Wales and has written a book called Merch Email, which is like the little honey girl, and it's a beautiful book. And so I'm about to start developing that. I'd love to see that get made. There's a few other animated feature films. I'm really keen to try and find ways to make more short films, animated short films, and more kind of like low budget art.
You
art
mean
films.
like a play, animation,
Anything really.
anything.
If it's beautiful and
so creativity
has something special about it, I'd like to be making it.
Okay.
And at the same time, I'm also looking at more commercial projects and thinking that's where the money is, and how do I make money from those but actually feel proud of what I've just
So
done?
you are a mix of entrepreneur plus creativity, right?
A little bit of both, yeah.
Okay, the last question I have for you.
Okay.
So if you had to start over today, what's the first thing you would do differently?
If I had to start over again today,
Yeah.
I think I'd love to have known what would have happened if I'd gone to film school.
Film school. Okay.
I didn't go to film school.
Okay.
I went to business school,
So same
and
here.
I became a banker, and then I left banking. And when I was leaving banking, I was thinking maybe I should try and go to film school. But I
why?
missed.
I mean, you were in banking, and why you came to the creative field?
Why did I change?
Yeah. What made you inspired with that?
I kind of thought that I was in the wrong place.
Okay.
I was doing the wrong job.
So you were interested from starting in the creativity, like animation and all stuff?
Well, I kind of thought to myself, I'd quite like to get into the film business, but I didn't know anything about the film business. And I thought, I'll give myself a year
Okay.
to try. If you don't try,
Right.
then you'll regret that you never tried, right?
Right.
I don't regret not going to film school, but I just think, what would have happened in my life if I had gone to film school? Would I have been an animation producer? Would I have been a director? What would I have been? Would my life have changed in a way that I don't know about? But that's probably the only thought right now that I could answer, thinking about the starting point. The starting point, I just jumped in there, and I was lucky, and I found my way because I just followed.
How did you start your journey? Like, what did you did first thing? Shifted to this.
So I went to London from Edinburgh, from Scotland, I should say, and I didn't know anybody. I didn't know anything about the industry, and I just thought, everybody says, send your CV to as many companies as you can, knock on as many doors as you can, and just keep going until you get a break. And I kind of did that, and eventually a producer who was a animation producer got my CV, so I had written banker, and he went, oh, he's money, he can get me money. So he got me into the company and said, could you get me some money? And I said, okay, I'll try, and that was it. I started there, I met some animators, they asked me to be their producer, I said yes, and I just kind of went from there, really. So that's how I got started. I just knocked on doors, got a break, having just done the work. You just got to do the work, right? It doesn't happen by magic.
Right.
Hard work usually is the way with everything that we do. Just, you get luck, but that luck you make by working hard, which is what you're doing. So well done.
Thank you.
Yeah, you're very welcome.
Yeah, that's it from my side today.
Mm-hmm.
It was great having talked to you.
Thank you.
I
Nice talking
hope
to you as well.
whoever is watching this video should have gotten some knowledge about the industry, about how to start, what not to do, what to do. Maybe.
Well, yeah, I mean, a little bit of advice there. I wish anybody who wants to go into this industry the very best of luck, and work hard, make friends, and be good to people. That's what I would say.
So when you say friends, like I just have a personal question now. How do you balance your personal life and your professional life? How do you do that?
I mean, I think I'm very lucky. I have a wonderful wife who's super smart, tolerates me, allows me the space to be who I am, and supports me. And then I've got some fantastic kids who I love very much, and so they give me joy and headaches, but mostly joy. And then I've got some amazing friends, and I'm very lucky. So, cherish those people that are good in your life, and those that are not good in your life, get rid of them. Don't have them in your life. That would be my advice.